5,000 years ago, there was this wicked king who had just taken the throne from his own father. Now, all was going well for a while until he heard a prophecy that his cousin sister's eighth child is going to be the cause of his death. Well, as is understandable, this made him very upset and he was all set to just kill off his cousin sister. But then he decided against it and instead just put his sister and his brother-in-law in the prison and decided to wait it out until the eighth baby is born to take care of matters. But then he was never quite sure and he just killed off every single baby that his sister had for good measure. So this happened for 6 consecutive babies, but with the 7th and the 8th one, there was a little bit of a twist in the story. Now we're going to skip ahead on the 7th one and come back to that later, but with the 8th baby, who is the actual hero of the story, they had the baby. The dad somehow managed to break out of prison, carry the baby to another city, and somehow switch the baby around with another newborn in his cousin's family. Now, as the story goes, all of this obviously happened by divine intervention, where all the gods were teamed up together to protect the interest of this 8th child. This baby is the illustrious Hindu god Lord Krishna. Now, let's just quickly cover off the story of the 7th baby. Lord Krishna's dad had another wife who was not imprisoned along with this couple, so she lived on the outside. Krishna's elder brother, Balaram, was actually conceived by Krishna's parents, but somehow was born through this other wife who lived on the outside. Now, it is quite possible that all the stories of Lord Krishna was based on a possible real human being who lived around that time. So if we take out all the stories of divine intervention and all the dramatic effect, let us see what may have really happened. So this is 5,000 years ago, and a king may have truly lived who usurped the throne from his dad and put his dad in prison. All that is factually quite possible. It is also quite possible that he was marrying his cousin sister off to a noble family in a nearby village. The bit that is probably not possible is that he heard a prophecy at this point in time that the 8th child of his cousin is going to kill him. As we all know, nobody gets to learn about the future of their lives from a loud voice in the sky in that way. So what may have happened is that this king who valiantly took the throne is actually nervous about his own position and is jumping at shadows and decides that any babies born in his extended family is a threat. It is also not quite possible that he was targeting the 8th baby specifically. He probably just didn't want any babies to be around to grow up and one day take his throne from him. Now, it is a little bit strange that when a couple gets thrown in the jail and they are living there under difficult circumstances, they still decide to keep on having babies, even though every single baby is taken off by the king and killed off pretty violently. It's not very easy to have babies in the first place, and having them in the prison would have been even more difficult. So they were probably hoping against hope that one of their babies would somehow survive and be able to save them. Now, it would have been a pretty difficult plot to execute to save one of their babies from prison, and therefore they were unsuccessful in saving the first 6 of them. But then by the 7th and the 8th one, they had come up with a little bit of a finer plan that kind of worked. By the time the 7th baby was due, I believe they had somehow figured out a way to go in and out of the prison without creating much noise. Now, the whole story about surrogacy is not really quite believable. Surrogacy is a complex procedure. The couple was in prison. It would have been just logistically impossible 5,000 years ago to transfer an embryo from one woman sitting in the prison to another woman sitting outside of the prison. It's much more likely that the dad would have gone out of the prison for a little while, impregnated his other wife, and then come back in without arousing any suspicion. I would say it would have been a pretty smart move to raise a potential future army while you are stuck in prison. It also kind of goes to support the fact that the evil king may not have any special interest in the 8th baby, because given the fact that he did not even know about the existence of the 7th baby, he would have counted the 8th baby as the 7th one. So he was obviously just paranoid and willy nilly killing off babies at random. So when the eighth baby is actually born in the prison, the story goes that the prison doors were suddenly found open and the dad could take the baby and walk right out of the gate. So by now we've already established that the dad has figured out a way to go in and out of the prison. So that kind of lines up with this part of the story. Because it must have taken him a few hours to take a baby, go out of the prison, travel on foot, cross a river, go to the other side of the river, to his cousin's house, where the cousin had just had a newborn, and switch the baby with the cousin's newborn baby and come all the way back to the prison before anybody knew that a baby has been born. He would have obviously lined up some kind of help to be able to do all this. So the dad is able to do all of this and he is safely back inside the prison with this other baby, which happens to be a girl. And then only the king comes to know that a baby is there and he comes running. Now this king, as paranoid as he is, then goes on to kill this girl baby as well. And as the story goes, this girl baby is actually a goddess, and at the point when the king is about to kill her, she just takes on her goddess form and tells the king to push off and tells him that his killer is actually born somewhere else, and then she goes off to heaven. So all of that obviously did not happen. Babies don't speak and disappear into thin air. The poor baby girl would have simply died at the hands of this king. The story probably stemmed from the fact that the king may have actually got wind of this baby switching action, and he in fact ordered a lot of other babies outside of the prison who were born around the same time to also be killed. Well, despite all his efforts, this eighth baby actually grew up to be pretty hale and hearty. And eventually one day he did kill his evil uncle and free his parents from the prison and restore his grandparent back to his throne. Then he went on to do some other really cool stuff, and we can talk about those in our future episodes. Bye for now, and see you next time.